Hello everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all here today, in particular our colleagues from the Compost Council of Canada. I would hope you will find our virtual conference interesting and informative over the next 2 days. On behalf of our members, I would like to thank all upcoming speakers and our CEO, Percy Foster, for their hard work and input that made this happen. Thank you. A number of stakeholders from industry, environment, local government, all came together in the years 2000-2001, and this led to the formation of CRAE. It was officially launched by Minister Dempsey in May of 2001. Little context. Pre-CRAE, there were a number of small composting sites in Ireland, primarily using garden waste as their feedstock. There was a few other commercial facilities making compost for the growing of mushrooms. The driver, of course, for the development of the sector was primarily regulation in those days. We had national legislation which was being upgraded, and of course new EU regulation around waste, landfill, and waste such as the landfill levy, which put a tax in incremental amounts over a number of years on material going into a landfill. We had, of course, the reduction of the number of landfill sites available in Ireland because they didn't meet the modern requirements of a landfill, and we had other regulations such as the animal byproducts regulation, which dictated how animal byproducts could be processed. So this created the opportunity for people who saw that if they built new and better and more modern infrastructure, then that these materials could become a feedstock for these facilities. So from a very small start, we now have 22 in-vessel facilities, we have 11 windrow facilities, and we have 20 biogas facilities. The animal byproducts is probably the singular most influential regulation that helped in the development of the sector and dictated how the sector would grow. Because if you remember, in the early days, it was primarily lower quality infrastructure such as just outdoor windows, outdoor pads. But if you wanted to process organics such as food waste, fish waste, etc., this had to be done in controlled environment indoors, so in vessel facilities. And today you must have a license from the Department of Agriculture under the ABP regulations for this to happen. So it was quite difficult to help develop technology and infrastructure from scratch to meet all of these requirements. So a forum was established between the Department of Agriculture and all of the other stakeholders. They worked together as a group, including CRAE and facility operators, etc., all worked together over the years to make it happen, to develop the facilities. That forum is still in situ today. It meets 3-4 times a year, and is a very, very good example of how regulators and stakeholders can come together and get the job done. So long may it last. CRAE has been involved in significant projects over the years. The Certificate in Compost Facility Operation is a training program for facility operators, and it was established between CRAE and the Institute of Technology in Sligo. And I believe that we have a program ongoing at the moment where there are, I think, 20 people on the course at the moment. And it is a prerequisite of your license that you must have suitably qualified people in operation for the operation of your facility. We've been involved in a number of EPA funded research projects on compost quality standards. This led to the NSAI standard 441. And we are also involved in research projects on nitrogen and phosphorus from compost. And again, this led to changes in the nitrates regulation, the use of compost in Ireland. Food waste increase. This is something that CRAE has been involved in from day one to try and find ways to get more and more food waste presented, captured and presented, of course, for processing in compost and AD facilities. One of the programs that we undertook was the National Brown Bin Awareness Pilot Scheme. This happened in Sligo, which is a regional town here in the northwest of Ireland. And approximately 50% of the population was given caddies, liners, education pack. There was people on the ground who interacted with the public the waste was managed and monitored from those who were using just the singular bin, the waste bin, against the sector of the population who were using the caddies, liners, etc. And the end result for it was there's a very good report in the Cray website where you can look at all the fine detail of this. But the end result of it all was that if you give people caddies, liners, and good education on what to do and how to do it, you dramatically increase the capture rate of food and you dramatically decrease the contamination levels. In recent years, the Food Waste Working Group has been established by people from the IWMA, which is the Irish Waste Management Association, the Department of Environment, Cray, regional and local authorities, the EPA. This group's remit is to promote food waste recycling. They meet a number of times a year and they help develop projects such as the National Brown Bin Awareness Project and other projects which promote the recycling of food. Other food waste pilot projects such as the Sligo one all had the same result. So, and they were in smaller towns. So just it is clear that if you give people the caddies, liners and education, you will get a higher capture rate. All of this has led to the development of a national roadmap, and that we hope will see the introduction of caddies and liners to a much, much bigger sector of the population over the coming months and years. The Cray Compostable Certification Scheme. This is a subsidiary of Cray, an independent group who facilitate companies who have products that are compostable. These products are tested by independent people in vessel facilities, and if the products break down and meet the necessary criteria, these successful companies then can use this logo on their products. It helps educate the consumer. It gives the consumer comfort that if they do put that product into their food bin, it is recyclable. And of course, facility operators are happy with it as well, because it means that when they see this material, they know that it has been certified and checked in a facility and it will decompose rather than be contamination. Cray embraced anaerobic digestion into its remit in 2009, and a relaunch of the organisation with Minister Ryan back in 2009. Cray has been involved in many policy engagements with the various departments: the Commercial Food Waste Regulation, Household Food Regulation, EU Transfrontier Shipment of Garden Waste, where in the early days you could transfrontier this material, but it was under an amber code, which was quite restrictive and onerous. Thanks to the hard work of some Irish civil servants in Brussels, they were able to get the member states to agree to change it to green listing, which is much simpler and better and more practical, of course. We have the landfill levy, refit 3 for biogas, nitrates regulation to recognise compost, and of course the spoken earlier, the ABP regulation. Over the last 20 years, Cray's turnover has been approximately 1.6 million. We've had 700 successful training days, 85 events and conferences, etc. 4 international conferences, 5 pieces of legislation, both Irish and European. We've been involved in research projects to the value of 2.8 million, approximately 8 to 10 scientific reports, field trials in the K Club, which is a prestigious golf club, a very successful trial there of compost on the golf course. We've had the Sligo food waste trial. We've done a lot of work on information outreach. There's a number of websites that are still active and promotes food waste recycling. 7,000 was generated for various charities over the years. We have the Compostable Certification Scheme, approximately 25 to 30 meetings with ministers of the various departments, meetings with the EU Commission, the Oireachtas Committee on a number of occasions, members of government groups such as Green Enterprise, Harvest 2020, ABP Forum, Peat Forum, etc. And approximately 100 submissions have been made to the various departments. Over the last 20 years, 3 to 3.5 million tonnes of organic material has been processed in Irish compost and biogas plants. Yeah, I think you'd have to agree this is a good return on a 1.6 million investment over 20 years. Current challenges: biowaste feedstock uncertainty for Republic of Ireland plants due to incentivisation of processing in Northern Ireland. This is an anomaly here in Ireland, whereby because of the incentivisation systems in play for Northern Ireland facilities, it means that they can offer a lower gate fee than Irish facilities can do. unfortunately this leads to a lot of feedstock going from Southern Ireland into Northern Ireland. Last year I think we calculated something in excess of 100,000 tonnes. Sadly, this has led to some facilities in Southern Ireland converting from food waste processing to biostabilisation and composting of other waste materials. Now we hope in time this will change back, and we will be able to have these facilities back operating, making quality compost. The biogas industry here in Ireland has been slow to develop, and this is primarily due to the lack of incentivisation. This needs to change. We need to further develop and implement the National PR Programme for Food Waste Recycling so we can capture more. And this is very important when it comes to producing product for peat dilution, because the amount of peat that is being mined in Ireland over the next number of years is continually decreasing. Compost, of course, can play a very important role in this, but it can only play an important role if we have the compost to actually put into the sector. If we don't get the raw material, we can't make the compost. The future. We need to incentivise the biogas sector. If it has any chance at all of development, this needs to be done, and it needs to be done urgently. We need to seriously reduce the contamination level of plastics, etc. in our food waste, so that we can produce quality compost and digest it. I know this is a problem across Europe, perhaps it is also a problem in Canada, but our trials to date with the different food waste pilot programs shows that if you use the caddy and the liners, your receptacle is much smaller, there's far less risk of contamination getting in there, and of course if there's less contamination we can make a higher quality product. So it's very important that we continue to keep pressure on to get plastic and all those other contaminations out of our feedstock. Carbon sequestration, of course, is an interesting development. We don't have many carbon sequestration programs going in Ireland at the moment, but there is a lot of talk that more will develop in time. We think this is a great thing. We think it's very good for our sector and it's very good for the environment, so the sooner the better. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this short presentation. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them later on. Thank you.